Hi.
Hi.
Welcome. So do you want to just tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Rowan, Ro for short, they, he, she pronouns. I am a life coach, a coach of some kind. I work with people who have a history of attachment trauma, doing a lot of work around self-worth, confidence, speaking up for yourself, taking care of yourself, choosing yourself, that sort of thing. That's really it at a high level.
Awesome. And so this was your first round of the Mastermind. So why did you want to join? Why did you join?
Yeah, so I have a history with you, Shannon, and it was sort of a guarantee that after working with you in a number of capacities over the years, that if I was going to want to figure out how to level up in my business, it would be probably doing something with you. Although, yeah, the Mastermind, I think, kind of snuck up on me at one point. It was just suddenly you were offering this thing that just felt, so many times I've had this where you get that feeling in your gut and you're like, ooh, I want that. I want to be a part of this. This feels really appropriate for where I'm at in my business. I really I wanted to take it seriously. I wanted to take this business seriously and my life purpose seriously. And I knew I didn't have a coach at the time. I knew I needed something. And yeah, knowing that it would be a group experience, that would be kind of like part accountability, part community, was really valuable to me. So yeah, I think I had a moment where I was like, oh, do I want to invest this much in myself? And then it was like, yeah, I do. I think we had that messaging back and forth where I was like, I'll think about it. Okay, I'm in.
Well, we had a call too, and I remember that there was like some hesitation. So I'm wondering if you recall, and maybe it was just like a fleeting moment where you just needed to kind of like have a conversation. But what were some of your hesitations that you had?
Yeah, I think for me it was, am I far enough along in my business for this to make sense? And I do actually feel like I'm kind of at the back. I'm the baby of the group still, but as we'll talk through, like it's been very worth it. And the other objection was just, can I afford this? Because I am a wacky person who spends way too much money all the time, and yeah, that was intimidating.
Yeah. And what do you feel like was like the thing where that got you over the hump, where you were like, okay, yeah, I got to do it?
Yeah. I think it was the idea that if I only continued doing it on my own and trying to figure things out on my own, without accountability, without a sense of consistent touch point for realigning and staying motivated, that I wasn't going to move at the pace I wanted to. I might not move at all. And when it came to the money, I kind of made myself a promise, like, you're just going to kick so much ass that you'll make this amount back, right? And that has been somewhat true and somewhat not true, but the amount of growth my business has had in this time and the amount of potential now that I have to make money is like massively expanded. So when I made the choice, it was, I didn't even realize how the type of value I was going to get, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah. So you said you didn't feel like you were far enough along. Where were you when you first joined the Mastermind?
Yeah. I had been wanting to start a coaching business for like 3 to 5 years already. I had gone through coach training with you for 6 months, like over a year before I joined the Mastermind. I had coached some people, but like 1 session, maybe 4 sessions max. They don't come back. I didn't really gather testimonials. I basically just had an Instagram account where during the worst of the pandemic, I was just venting about my problems in an educational, and, normalizing way, but it wasn't a coaching business, I didn't have a website. I wasn't selling my coaching. I wasn't really talking about coaching. By the time I started the mastermind, I think I was maybe like just posting educational content instead of venting about my personal problems. I was doing that consistently, but that's all there was. I didn't know how to turn helping people with free content into sales, basically, into like, I'm actually helping people by coaching them and not just posting memes that I create or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what has the growth been that you've experienced? Like, where are you now in terms of like your business or your mindset, or, because we've covered strategy and, structure and stuff. So where do you feel like you are now?
I feel a lot more hopeful now. I think that might even be the biggest change, is that I can see the path forward. Through the mastermind, I've developed a sense of both patience and not urgency in a bad way, but like motivation to keep going. I have reached a bunch of milestones in this time. So, my first full price paying client, and then more after that, has been just very validating and a big deal for me, instead of having these sort of one-off situations. I've got a website now. I know we don't need it, but I'm also a web designer and I love having one. I've got my systems set up, I've got my software set up, the scheduling and all the business technical stuff, which has been also just really helpful because it makes things run smoother, right?
Right.
And I've been able to really transform kind of a vague, let's talk about trauma and insecurity and all these things, educational platform into a much more focused, here's who I work with, here's what I work on people with, this is the transformation, which has helped me as much as any of my clients or potential clients. I think like me getting clear on what I want to do in the world and how I want to impact it has been huge. Yeah. So I think like the mastermind basically got me from I'm treating this like a hobby to now I have the structure and the foundation for a real powerful business. And I may or may not be where I want to right now, but I've also had a full-time job and side projects and a band this whole time. So like I've needed to be patient in the amount of time I can spend on this, but I have the platform now. Things are in place and I can jump from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things, we just had our call today, but so like one of the things too is like learning how to launch, learning how to stick with the launch, like that whole strategy and, following through and what did and didn't go well and what can we, tweak next time. And I've really seen that for you as well, of like, like moving from the one-off sessions and the shorter programs to a longer coaching package, and then learning how to like show up and talk about that and sell that online.
Yeah, it's been a real journey, and I have a feeling it's going to keep evolving. But that's also the nature of being still kind of newish at doing this at this level, Yeah. But yeah, to that, like one of the biggest benefits of being in the mastermind has been encouragement around consistency, having a consistent touch point to come back to and be like, well, I got to show my work this week, to the group. Like I have to have something to say, what I'm going to say. So that has motivated me to stay. I'm super ADD. I've got trauma problems, dysregulation. I have a hard time focusing and being consistent. So it's accountability, right? Needing to show up and wanting to have something to say and move forward from has been really super crucial for me to have.
Yeah. And that the weekly support, and then you would have the office hours too with the support coach, which will be changing this next time. But then also that one-on-one sessions that you would have during the month as well. What was the Like, what was your experience in having a support coach as well as the group calls?
That was interesting. I feel like you and her were in a strong alignment with how you would direct people, but there was different things that you would focus on maybe. So I would get kind of like different angles on the same thing and a different way of phrasing it or a different way of drawing people out. So and initially I was like, oh, it's not Shannon, but like Ashley was flipping awesome. Like I really appreciated her like loving, encouraging, get into your body kind of vibe. And she was great. So it was good to have that variety, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing this time, but that was cool.
This next round, we have a VP, right, who's an anti-racist business coach. So it's like a different angle for this mastermind. So
totally. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be great too.
Yeah. I feel like you answered my other question, which was, what were your biggest takeaways? Was there anything else? Like, you feel like you had like a big aha, or was there like a big moment where you're like, oh, fuck?
I mean, I've had a million little moments like that,
a million little fucks.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's just your tagline for the mastermind now. A million little fucks. Yeah, I mean, I had so many moments where it's like, from a strategy perspective, like, oh, I did not know I could just do that. There was a lot of permission. Like, one of my biggest issues is not real, like, is not moving unless I see that someone says I can do this. And that's like this other thing I need to work on, right? But like having the mastermind and having people say like, oh, just do this. I'm like, I can do that. So those were
this easy. Like, I don't have to overthink this. Yeah.
Right. Or I'm allowed to say that, or I'm allowed to try this or whatever. So from a strategy perspective, I had a lot of aha moments. From a mindset perspective, like reminding me to count all my wins, reminding me that even if people are not necessarily responding right now, they're probably still watching, they probably still care, and something will happen down the road, trusting myself. So lots of little aha moments there. But a lot of it was, or a lot of the value, a lot of the takeaways were like, oh, this experience is really valuable. Having a coach or a group coaching program, being in community with people, being both intimidated by and motivated by how other people are doing in the group, and sort of like managing your feelings around that and turning it into hope and all that.
Will you talk a little bit about that? Because I know I'm going off script here. This is not one of the questions I sent you. But I feel like this is like a big thing that like I've experienced in the mastermind that I've been in, which is like, oh, I feel like a little fish in this big sea. Right. And then, and also like seeing the value of being around people who are farther along, and how it just like collapses a lot of that learning curve. Like, it shortens that learning curve. So I'm curious, like if somebody was saying like, oh, I feel like I'm going to be like the newbie, I don't want to be, the small fish. Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say it is much more beneficial to be a newbie around people who are more experienced, have been doing it longer, or are having more success at the moment, because that will make you want to grow there. And my tip is always, when you feel the comparison and the jealousy coming on, like everything seems to be just working great for these people, what's so fucking special about them, like I'm working hard, why am I not getting this? Like, turn that energy into a reminder that this is possible. And for me, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be here learning from people who are stuck in the same places I'm stuck in. I want to be learning from the people who are struggling or succeeding at the level that I want to be at. So being in that group instead of like in the beginner group or whatever has been really valuable for me.
Yeah. Same. That's been my experience too. I was like shaking in my boots, like, I don't belong here. And then very quickly, I feel like it's just like, it's just like a sink or swim situation of like, I can either let these feelings take over, or I can see this as an opportunity to learn from people and learn from their mistakes and see like, okay, these are next level business problems, right? Like, oh, I don't know how to manage all this money, or I don't know how to like do all these things. Or like, I have to hire a team. And it's like, but then it's also like, great. So I know when I'm going to hire a team, or when like these things happen, I know how to handle that situation, or like, you know, conversations that you just like didn't even know existed because they're not necessarily happening on the internet. They're happening behind closed doors, because we don't need to be putting like all the business stuff out. And it's like a big, like, oh shit. Like, do you feel like you saw too, like people who were further along struggling with the same thing, but just at a different level?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and that's the funny thing, right? A lot of the core issues, the core fears and insecurities and stuckness that we have is same thing, just a different level of the video game, right?
Totally. And I remember too, I was like, oh, things will get easier when I hit this number, that number. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They're literally dealing with the same thing, but it's just at a different level. So I think that's like also a big like aha moment for a lot of people of like, oh, shit doesn't just like magically go away. Like these fears and doubts about raising my rates and being good enough. And like, do I deserve this money? Like that kind of sticks around no matter what rates you're charging. So
yeah. And it's the same in therapy or your personal development journey. Like, why am I still stuck on this same thing? Oh, but I'm doing it in much more like harder situations and I'm handling it better. So like, definitely. And it's valuable to see that in the group. Like, I'm not alone. I'm just not quite there yet.
Right. I don't have that like skill set yet. Yeah, totally. What would you say to anybody who's on the fence?
I would say, trust yourself. If it's something you want, find a way that it makes sense to do it. For me, it was, I'm going to make more money and I'm going to spend less money here and there. You know, what are my actual priorities? And think about, I mean, Shannon will ask you this, think about what would be possible for you if you wanted to do this, and what might happen if you don't invest and like really go hard, you know. I guess go hard, you know, you talk about pleasure and relaxing and stuff. So I shouldn't say like, you know,
I mean, we still can go hard in pleasure.
Yeah.
No, it's
take
just
it
like,
seriously.
Yeah, no, but I hear you. No, there's definitely like, I don't want to say like hustle, but there's like, right. But you can still do it in pleasure. So yes.
Yeah. So I just say, listen to your heart, listen to your gut. Does it feel, if the money weren't an issue, would it feel good? And is there room in life to make it financially viable?
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else?
I'm just super grateful